Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. All right. All right. So, what's up? My name's Will. There's a link in the chat if you have anything you want to have a discussion. Actually, I just wanted to talk about a couple things because I'm horrified. I'm absolutely horrified right now. So first of all, let me just say that what's happening in our country right now is absolutely unbelievable. What's happening in our country right now is not once in a generation, but once in several, because we're dealing with a lot of divisiveness from a lot of different angles. A lot of things want to cut us apart from each other, and it's getting to an all-time crazy level. I've been, just trying to wrap my head around what is happening right now, and it is an impossible task. But one thing that I'm really worried about is that we are leaving nothing for our kids. This kills me. My daughter doesn't get to graduate this year, so she's a senior. She doesn't get to walk down the aisle and get her diploma. She didn't get to see her friends for the last day of school. She didn't get to do all the shit that every other kid that's ever gone to school in the history of going to school has been able to do. And personally, I knew when we had our presidential election that we were fucked. I just didn't think it would be to this level. To watch this man today go after peaceful protesters with armed military, I'm in total shock. And I do want to share something very, very positive that came out of today. So there's a very, very famous, anchor from the past that shared some perspective that I really thought was important. Enough to me where I don't know what I can do. I know I'm here to do something. I live in a place where it's very, barren as far as diversity goes. So for me, I can only imagine what it would be like living in a major city. And everybody, you guys have every single right to be pissed. I'm pissed. So I started building a social media platform, whatever you want to call it, because I wanted to have the opportunity one day hold on a second. I wanted the opportunity one day to be able to share my music with someone. That's it. It's the only reason why. And we can all do more. We can all try harder. So, I feel bad for the kids. I'm going to play this because I found this hopeful. I found this very hopeful. So I'm going to share it with you guys. Excuse me.
Really needs no introduction to our CNN viewers and people across this country. Legendary CNN anchor Bernard Shaw joining us on what happens to be CNN's 40th anniversary tonight as well. You know, Bernie, you're in Washington. You know, we've seen this incredible scene play out moments ago, right outside the White House. The president wanted to speak in the Rose Garden. Rubber bullets, flashbangs, tear gas deployed to disperse the crowd, a peaceful crowd. And then the president, it became clear he did all that so that he would be able to walk across the street for a photo op with members of the White House staff outside St. John's Church, where he held up a Bible. How did you feel as you saw all of this unfold?
I was thinking that the critical focus of history will judge Donald Trump as a presidential aberration. Walking from the White House through the tear gas laden Lafayette Park to the steps of the Church of the Presidents, St. John's, and holding up that Bible would have made P.T. Barnum proud.
And what do you make, Bernie, of his read of this? I mean, he before he did that, he said, "I am your president of law and order." And he said he is, invoking an act not invoked since 1807 to deploy U.S. military troops on American soil, which Jeffrey Toobin pointed out he can't legally do. But that was the tone he set. What do you make of that tone? This is his read of the moment.
That tone is not surprising. This man has a total preoccupation with one thing, and that is getting reelected in November. I think of what he said about the people in Charlottesville. There are good people on both sides. You recall that?
So you have the George Floyd murder. You have Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. You have all of these stories now, and on top of that, a pandemic causing pain and anxiety across this country. But in terms of death and mortality, hitting the African-American community more than any other. You have unemployment across this country of 20+%, and in some of the communities most affected here, probably significantly higher than that. What do you make of these two unprecedented historical moments happening at the same time?
The American people, this great country of ours, is under assault. For 4 years, I proudly wore the uniform of the United States Marine Corps. I am proud of my country. I love my country. I love my fellow citizens. But our great nation has fissures, and it is flawed. Donald Trump wants to be reelected. But right now, upwards of 40 million Americans are without jobs. Do you really think that between now and in November, our economy is going to turn around? That these 40 million Americans will have their jobs back? Pay their bills. They struggle to get food for themselves and their families. The American people are going to make their judgment. They're going to make their verdict known to the world in November. And I think what's going to happen is that the Democrats, because of all of this ferment, will regain control of the Senate, will keep their majority in the House of Representatives, and the Trump-Pence ticket will be defeated by landslide proportions. That's what I think is the upshot of what is going on right now, because we are on the threshold of a new movement in our country. There's a new movement, a movement against hatred. And the elements of that hatred include racism, which traces its roots back 400 years. It includes anti-Semitism. It includes sexism and xenophobia. There's a new movement, fresh blood, white Americans realizing that they must step in and they must do their part, as they have been doing, most of our citizens. African Americans, people of color, brown people, black people. There is a new movement being born right now. The 60s had the civil rights era. There's a new movement underway in our great country right now.
And Bernie, before we go, I want to ask you, I remember the first time I saw you. I was a young child with my parents at a restaurant in Washington.
All right, so basically, I want to get just back to that part. I mean, YouTube might shut me down. I don't know, but I want to get back to this part.
And the elements of that hatred, that's what I think is the upshot of what is going on right now. Because we are on the threshold of a new movement in our country. There's a new movement, a movement against hatred. And the elements of that hatred include racism, which traces its roots back 400 years. It includes anti-Semitism. It includes sexism and xenophobia. There's a new movement, fresh blood, white Americans realizing that they must step in and they must do their part, as they have been doing, most of our citizens. African Americans, people of color, brown people, black people. There is a new movement being born right now. The 60s had the civil rights era. There's a new movement underway in our great country right now.
And Bernie.
All right. So that was just in response to the way today's protests were handled. And look, I don't get that political on this channel. I don't get political at all. I'm a supporter of, people who go about things the right way. So when I see that not happening, then I'm naturally against that. Today was exactly that. Today was the worst example of that. Got peaceful protesters who are standing there. I'm watching this unfold. They've got their arms in the air, chanting, "Don't shoot." And you could tell there was a power ramping up because they started bringing in the military on trucks. I never thought I would see the day that the military that I was a part of would be aggressively going after peaceful protesters with tear gas. I watched people get shot with rubber bullets today that were retreating. I don't know what else to say but that this is wrong. And look, if you voted for Trump or you are a Trump supporter, I hope to God I don't know you, because make sure I don't know that. I can't stand behind anybody or near anybody that's associated with such a frigging narcissist. He went across the street and held his Bible in the air for a photo op. He shot and maced, tear gassed, whatever, everybody he could to get a photo op. So that's it. I left a link in here. Anybody wants to say anything there? I don't think there's anybody in here, so it's all good. I just wanted to have my tiny say. That's it. And it is what it is. So I'll keep creating, and I will keep doing what I can, just like everybody else. But we got to try harder.